I'm sure you know what contrast means. It's when you've got light stuff next to dark stuff. Well, you might not have considered the difference between local contrast and global contrast. So in this short video, I'm going to hope to shed some light on the topic so that you're thinking about it when you make your future illustrations. So what you're looking at are two things. First, a black and white photo of garlic that I took. And second, a value scale. This goes from 0%, which is black, all the way up to 100%, which is white. So I'd call a middle gray 50, or 50%. Well, let's use this value scale to take a look at the value distribution on this photo of garlic. So let's first see the illuminated area, where the light source is hitting the garlic and it's showing off all those details. I sampled around and I could see that the value range here went from about 60 to 100. So it's a pretty wide range of values, but it doesn't have anything below 50%. Well, then I looked at the shadows, and that has an even narrower band of value information. So it would be safe to say that both the illuminated area and the shadow area have low local contrast. The image as a whole has high global contrast, because if I were to sample this darkest area here, the cast shadow, that's at a 0%, pure black. And you remember from the illuminated area, some of the brightest bits there go all the way up to 100%, or 97 as you see here. So the image has high overall contrast, global contrast. But the shadow area and the illuminated area each have low local contrast. And generally speaking, this is a great way to achieve realism in your paintings, to have individual parts of your painting have low local contrast. So let's say I was going to try and paint this garlic. I've started with the form, and now I want to paint these ridges, because everybody knows that garlic has some flaky ridges. So these ridges probably cast a shadow, and my brain tells me they're dark. I'm going to paint some lines on there because they're ridges. Well, now I've made a problem. It's not looking realistic. And one reason it's not looking realistic is because the value that I just painted in there, let me sample it to see. Okay, so the value is 26%. So if I were to graph that on the scale here, it would be right around here. Well, actually that value is only existing in the shadow, not in the illuminated area. So the only values I'm allowed to use for this illuminated area fall between about 60% and 100%. So if I drew these ridges at a 25, that's why it's not looking realistic. So let's erase those and choose a value that's at the low end of the illuminated area. So I'll choose about a 60. Okay. Now when I go to paint these ridges, they're much lower contrast. You can see them, but they're not the dark, cartoony lines that I had before. And this is much more realistic because I'm working within the proper low contrast value scale. So if something's seeming unrealistic in your image, it's pretty likely that you've gone too high contrast on a surface. So it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with this concept by looking at photos. Make them black and white, and try and make charts like this. How much contrast range is there in the illuminated area? How much range is there in the shadows? Odds are it's a lot less than you think. Then try the same thing with one of your paintings. Make the same sort of chart, and you're likely to find that you're putting way more contrast into all the surfaces than you should be. So things to remember are to have good global contrast, which is to say dark shadows, bright highlights, and overall nice value arrangement. But within individual surfaces, keep them low contrast. And I'll refer to this as low local contrast. So this topic is probably new to you, and it seems a bit confusing, but it's really important. In fact, it's one of the things that's helped me improve most as a painter in recent years. I'm sure by this point you are chomping at the bit. You want to get painting. Well, now it's time to go ahead and open up the resources folder in the zip file and get out the base rendering that I've included. Because coming up next, I'm going to show you the workflow to go from a base render into a hand-painted material. So let's get into it.